Vice President and General Manager, Hugo Swart.
All right, thank you everyone. Let's get started. The hot topic of the day, the metaverse. So we have a very fine and great lineup of panelists for the next session, and very excited to be talking about the opportunities and the relevance of mobile operators with XR and the metaverse. But before we get started, I wanted to share a quick video of something we announced last November that I think is very, very relevant for operators to embrace XR. So let's turn on the video for a minute. Okay, so that's our new developer platform, Snapdragon Spaces, and we'll talk more about it as we go through the panel. So let me introduce the panelists that are here with us today, and I'll start with Bryan Fries. Please welcome Bryan. Bryan is Vice President of Technology Ecosystem Development at T-Mobile and is responsible for driving the long-term advancements in 5G products and services. I just lost my cheat sheet. But Bryan,
you want me to talk a little bit about it? Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. So I have a small team in T-Mobile US, and look, we're looking at the product portfolio in 5G for 2 to 3 years out, and trying to see kind of what's coming down the pipe out there that we can take and use to diversify our portfolio beyond the smartphone. So we're looking at devices and applications and use cases that can help us grow our business in many different ways. So nice to be here. Good to see everybody.
Thanks, Bryan. Next is Mikio Iwamura, son from GM, and for their XR Innovation Office at NTT DOCOMO. Welcome. So he's focused on accelerating XR business development across the DOCOMO group, driving consumer business development, including the metaverse, Web3, spatial computing, and more.
So many tasks I have. So I'm leading XR Innovation Office, which was established last October within our company. But I'm responsible not just to drive XR business for DOCOMO, but also for the entire NTT group, because the NTT group considers this XR business as really a key pillar for the next generation.
Thank you. Now, Terry Schussler, Senior Director of XR and the Metaverse at Deutsche Telekom. Welcome. So Terry works on strategy, partner management, trend scouting, technical research, and developer engagement at Deutsche Telekom, focusing on metaverse topics such as spatial computing, 5G, edge computing, AI, cryptocurrency, NFT. What else?
Whatever metaverse thing you want to add in there. It's just a potpourri of functionality. Yeah, I mean, my career has been as a software developer in the trenches, engineering consumer applications, and I've been driving our scouting on the head-worn technology and enabling technologies so it can bring XR, now as we call it, the metaverse, forward and realize real consumer and B2B outcomes with it.
So I think here you see a great example of three leading mobile operators or operators embracing XR and working together to drive the metaverse forward, where the operators have a very relevant participation in the industry, in the ecosystem. But we also wanted in this panel to invite someone that can represent the OEM side of things. So Vishal Shah, GM and XR and the Metaverse from Lenovo. Please welcome Vishal. Thanks, Vishal. And Vishal, responsible for product management, sales, marketing, and operations for the XR Metaverse group, including the portfolio of Think Reality XR Solutions. Love that name, Think Reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Hugo and the team. Like Hugo said, I run the AR, VR, and Metaverse business initiatives at Lenovo. It's all about the ecosystem. So like my colleague said yesterday, we work with Qualcomm for the power and the chipset inside, and we rely on the telcos for the power and compute outside to connect to the cloud and the edge. So it's a great panel and a great ecosystem that works together.
Okay, thanks again for the panelists. So, as I think everyone has seen in the media and in conversations, there's a lot of excitement around the metaverse. There's a lot of opportunities as we go from computing in 2D screens, right, rectangular screens as your phones, your PCs, and even TVs, to now spatial computing. And we think that there's opportunities for everyone, from the silicon to the OEM device, to operators, to developers. So let's dive a little deeper on the opportunity that we here in the panel see. So maybe I'll start with Terry. Yeah. Just as we were prepping, you were saying you've been working in immersive computing since the 90s. And, more recently joined Deutsche Telekom driving this. So what's the potential that you saw in XR and, what we're now calling the metaverse?
Right. So, I mean, when I started working in augmented reality, I really focused on the idea of camera being sort of a gateway, mechanism for single user experiences. But they're mostly momentary single user experiences, what we've seen on mobile phones. And what really got me excited with head-worn devices is the idea that I can free my hands up from the ergonomic fatigue that I get from holding a phone, increase my focus on the real world instead of looking at my phone like this and kind of missing the real world, but allowing the real world to be an integrated part of the experience. And making the experiences durative, contextual, and personalized was something that was really important to me. So instead of momentary, 10, 30-second AR experiences, what I think really drives the industry forward is 30-minute to an hour-long or more experiences that are meaningful to people, that are personalized. So that's been the AR, journey in the past. Metaverse brings community, brings multi-user experience, brings a stateful ecosystem instead of a stateless one. So it's always on 24 hours a day. It's persistent. And it allows us to create a vehicle for knowledge transfer, the same way that the internet today is a vehicle for knowledge transfer. In a spatial context with real-world awareness, we can use whatever you called a collaboration tool last year, now as a metaverse. We can use these ecosystems as a vehicle for enabling person-to-person domain expertise transfer, and I think that's really a powerful aspect. We allow the real-world experience that you have to become a dominant center point for those exchanges of knowledge. It's not just a dystopian future where I'm in the cave wearing a device and I don't, somebody feeds me intravenously. It's much more about the mindful and meaningful experiences that we can create.
Thanks, Terry, and appreciate your always strong partnership with Qualcomm. So maybe Vishal, can you address a little bit more from the OEM how Lenovo now the forefront of the Think Reality with AR? What are the opportunities you see for Lenovo to invest and support the operators in the broader community?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. When we decided to invest in AR/VR, we went in a pretty big way. It came out of our incubation group, which is run as a very professional VC-like structure where we're looking to create the next $5 billion business product line. So we clearly saw XR as sort of the post-mobile, post-PC form factor in this connected world. If you just look at the TAM numbers, right, even before the metaverse hype took place, the TAM for AR/VR devices and the ecosystem is going to be about $150 billion over the next 5 years, by 2025. So that's a 60% average CAGR, whereas most other industries are, flatlining or declining. So that was a huge opportunity that we saw. So that was number one. Number two, we saw a real gap in the ecosystem. There were hardware vendors just creating hardware and throwing it over the wall. There were ISVs and software vendors just creating applications, hoping that they would work with the hardware. And there was the third thing that was lacking was a complete lack of system integrators that knew how to put the whole package together. So what we did at Lenovo and Think Reality is we've created XR as a service, right? A complete bundle that puts in the hardware, a complete software package together that helps you manage these devices, as well as a strong solution ecosystem with our partners. So that was the second real opportunity that we saw. And third was obviously working with Qualcomm, right? So for us, this is a 5 to 10 year bet. And we wanted to work with a partner that has sort of the right vectors that we need, like low power, high compute, being able to work with multiple devices, right? So one of Lenovo's superpowers is that we work across PCs, laptops, and the mobile edge as well, right? So working with Hugo's team, we want to work on a multiple year roadmap, and that's where as Qualcomm goes up the stack, it becomes easier and easier for us to develop these devices in a relatively short period of time. And that's how we came out with the A3 glasses. I hope I can take it out. Oops, they're stuck. Anyway.
So small that they get lost.
Small, exactly.
They're so small that they're lost. So that's how we came out with almost like a sunglass kind of form factor, 130 grams. The glasses that Hugo is wearing are about 80 to 90 grams, and that's where we're headed with the next generation. But that's kind of the innovation that we can do working with a partner like Qualcomm.
Yeah, and maybe one thing to add into our partnership, those glasses, the A3, they're actually part of our dev kit. I mentioned the Snapdragon Spaces, that's our developer program. The hardware developer kit is that glass together with a Motorola phone. So that glass, works in conjunction with a host compute unit, can be a phone, in that case the Motorola, can also be a PC. So I think that's kind of the form factor that we're working together with Lenovo and the broader industry. So Iwamura-san, thanks for your special trip, coming here and supporting this panel. In Japan, there's a rich history of brands coming with new experiences, be it in gaming, in consumer electronics, and so forth. How do you see these brands in Japan embracing the metaverse, embracing XR, and how do you see DOCOMO playing a role in that technology evolution?
Yep, thank you. XR and metaverse has a really immense and almost infinite possibilities, potentials. But in order to succeed, we have to have a viable working ecosystem. And we have to have the devices ready, the chipset ready devices, also the network ready platforms, but also the content and services.
Right.
And if you look at Japan, I think Japan has a number of good reasons where this XR metaverse may proliferate initially. Because Japan has very good electronics vendors, all these important vendors with established brands and capabilities. But also, Japan has a very good IPs and contents, all these characters, Evangelion, Gundam, or Pokemon, or Doraemon. Right. They don't have to live in these tiny screens anymore. We can bring them to life, and they can be walking around here or flying around and interacting with you. And so I think all these characters, animes, they're all fantasies, and Japanese have very good imagination to create these characters and stories. But we can really bring them to life with this XR and Metaverse capability. And so I'm very enthusiastic and excited about this. And DOCOMO's role is really to bring this ecosystem together.
Yep.
So we would be a network provider, but also a platform provider. But it's not just the technical or the engineering platform, but also including all the business units that engage with these different stakeholders, and including the CPs and IPs. And we would have a business operation platform where we can bridge these different, the digital providers, the physical asset owners, and the customer base.
No, thank you. And I do see and concur with you the opportunity for operators here. This is a new computing paradigm, a new computing platform where there is an opportunity to do more, at that service layer. And it's something that I think, operators can probably leverage within each other as you develop content in Germany for Deutsche Telekom that may be also applicable in US and Japan. So maybe, let's go a little bit deeper on something that, of course, for XR and the metaverse to be something meaningful for people, which is having content, right? How do you attract developers, applications into this new device form factor? So I mentioned, Snapdragon Spaces that we created, right, with APIs for developers, create this spatial computing content. So now, how can operators then leverage this and build their own platform, their own services, their own exclusive type of content? So maybe, Bryan, very nice to see, all the effort that T-Mobile is putting into your accelerator program to build 5G experiences for XR. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about the role of T-Mobile and what you're trying to do with the accelerator program.
Yeah, sure. Look, we're incredibly proud to be the lead North American partner for Spaces. And I think you touch on a question that's really, really important for operators to address in their models going forward, because we've built incredibly scaled and successful businesses selling just one product, this.
Right.
One product over decades. And when we look at 5G, we say, everybody in this room knows that 5G is going to expand the product portfolio, exponentially, right? So we see that coming. We go, okay, what does that mean? So our success thus far we've been able to achieve that by working with, a fairly small number of large-scale partners. The folks that build the radios, the folks that build the things that go inside the radios and the phones like yourselves, and the OEMs, right? And we can, create these businesses. But now the nature of success will change. We have to broaden our horizons and start to work with a much broader ecosystem of partners. And we need new tools to do that, and new organizations like our emerging tech organization to start engaging with these new communities. So the accelerator is one of the tools in our portfolio to do that. Really important one, because we can take this program. We need to be able to work with companies large and small in fields that we haven't traditionally engaged deeply with. And this program lets us do that, to build content very specifically for a strategic priority, this case being Spaces. And then we look at coupling that with with other programs like Open Innovation Lab. We have a Ventures Fund. We have a co-development hub where we a maker space to come in and build with us. Developers Edge platform where we're opening the network APIs up to developers. So all these tools come together in a way that lets us engage with the community. And it really is, community has been mentioned a couple times. Super important term. We need to build a community of common purpose. And if we do that really well, we're going to catalyze the commercial opportunity for ourselves and the new devices that are going to come forward, and the new applications that are going to come forward, and the new capabilities and user experiences that have come forward. So that's what this is all about, and accelerators are a really important part of that kind of overall strategy. If we do it well, we're going to build something much bigger than ourselves, and that's really the objective.
Well, thanks, and I'm very proud for the deep engagement that we had. It's not too long ago, you mentioned, not too long ago, we had an executive meeting at Qualcomm where we decided this collaboration, and you were able to put this very solid program in a reasonable short amount of time, and I think we want to take this forward. You guys are taking the leadership here in U.S. And then maybe, Terry, maybe you can talk a little bit about Germany, right? Where you also have Hubraum, your innovation incubator. Is that how you define
That's
it?
right. Yeah.
That it's also having a developer program based on spaces, but in Germany. So can you talk about the areas of opportunities maybe that these developers are looking at? Sure.
Yeah, we're really happy to be jointly doing this, Deutsche Telekom and T-Mobile, creating sort of a cross-Atlantic, joint collaboration on these programs. And what we're seeing is the scaffolding that Snapdragon Spaces is going to give developers really takes a lot of the pain points out of the pathway for them to realize their vision. And so now instead of just trying to, solve for hand tracking or plane detection or fundamentals like that, they're moving deeper into the user experience and the value of the experience. So I think there's this huge opportunity to bring AI services and domain expertise backed by those AI services into these user experiences to start to create deeper, more meaningful, durative experiences, as I mentioned earlier. And I think that starts with augmenting the human experience, like enabling somebody who has neurodiversity, dyslexia, low vision, blindness, to be more capable in a human experience that they have, or enabling language democratization and creating sort of, this idea that we don't all have to speak the same language, we can but still communicate, deeply with each other. I think taking real-world experiences like travel is a great opportunity to make those times that you're actually out in the real world even more meaningful, understanding what you're looking at. When you go to a museum, understanding the depth of the information about the artists and why they painted that way and so forth. So I think really, even if you look at the B2B class of use cases, which I think is a huge, right now opportunity for AR head-worn devices, that still involves, the commodity sort of see what I see, but it's really, the expert over the shoulder, right, transferring knowledge to the person in the field. And if you can automate and scale that by utilizing AI services so that a customer can self-service installation of a new device in their home or troubleshooting a piece of equipment, then that becomes really a huge value proposition for the whole ecosystem. So those are the opportunities I think developers will start leaning in, and we're seeing that in the early applications. In the Spaces program that we're running at Hubraum, we're seeing these developers starting to lean deeper now into that kind of thinking.
Yeah, one of my favorites coming out of that is, I think, Matsuko, right? Yeah. They have a kind of a collaboration where each person is an avatar, an avatar, but a person-looking avatar, real person, and you can have meetings and just whiteboard sessions and so forth. So, happy to see that kind of application come through the program as well. So maybe going back to you, Iwamura-san. So what can you tell us about your approach? I know that, of course, there's the going after external developers, but also building internal content, and that can be kind of a flagship content from the operator. Maybe you can talk a little bit more.
We are doing both approaches, internal development, but also opening up our platforms, APIs, SDKs, to facilitate external development as well. And because XR Metaverse is such a big buzzword, everyone wants to do something with it.
Right.
But if you go and talk to different enterprise, they don't know exactly yet what they want to do. So we have to have iterative communications with the individual enterprises, and actually NTT Group is going to reorganize our business units. So we're gonna aggregate like close to 20,000 people to engage with these enterprise prices.
That's excellent.
So we are currently sorting out various needs for Metaverse, XR, and we're starting to see some commonalities among these. So we're going to build on this as well. But on the consumer side, we are doing various trials as well, and trying to bring all these different CPs, IPs, and trying out.
Oh, that's great. I like the approach, that you're taking on having kind of a first-party services, products, applications, but also enabling, the wide net, through the developer.
Yeah, So in my view, XR Metaverse is an extension of telecommunications. So before we were dealing with voice, which was something very meaningful for the human beings. But data is just a stream of 0, 1, which doesn't have really context for the humans. Now, with XR Metaverse, you can transmit contexts like avatars, 3Ds. So we can open these capabilities and bring in all these external people to build services on top of that.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. Actually, in one of Qualcomm's keynote before on XR, we talked about first generation of wireless cellular communication. It was about analog voice. Second generation, digital voice, SMS. Third generation, who here remember video calling, UMTS, right? Secret switch, video telephony, and all that good stuff with 3G. Then 4G, it was much better video telephony, much better video calling, and chats and so forth. Now with 5G, we see holographic telepresence, very much to what you were saying. And I think, I see everyone nodding. I think that's kind of, the killer application. And what is holographic telepresence? It's telecommunications, like you're saying. So, okay, we're in a 5G summit event, so we have to talk about 5G. Not because it's an obligation, but we actually believe that there's a very strong synergy between 5G, XR, and actually AI, right? These three together, I think, are very, very powerful. So maybe, Bryan, can you provide your view on how 5G can help, differentiated metaverse experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to look back and, we talked a minute ago about different platforms or means of communication, trending toward holographic communication. So let's look back. Look at telephony, look at compute, look at the internet itself. All of these started in the home or in the office in a fixed location. And then they proliferated outward. And as we became delighted with the experiences we were getting from these, communication, these are platforms, communication, connection between human beings and transactions, right? And once you've got that to the point where it's a delightful experience, you want to take it with you. You don't want to have to go find it, in a location. And that doesn't happen without a 5G network, right? So these networks are critical in order to take the metaverse and get it outside the living room or outside the office. Without it, it doesn't happen. And we're going to want it everywhere. You're going to want to be able to take advantage of that connection or the transactions and the community that's formed in the metaverse all over the place. And so what do you need? You need a great network, to do it. And it's got to be, very secure, which, 5G is very secure compared to many other forms of wireless networking. The capacity that we're seeing, all of a sudden, you've got a wireless network that, is equivalent or better than many wired networks out there. I mean, you've got the ability to provide user experiences that are smart based on what the user is trying to accomplish. So, let's take, some very deeply immersive experience. What does it take to make that happen? Well, we can put the services that drive that close to the end user at the edge of the networks, right? And the wireless networks get so close to the end user, very important. And then as, slicing becomes prolific, then we can start to manage layers of service and activity on the network in a way that optimizes the experience based on what folks are doing. So there's so much power in the network just, for where that it will live and the capabilities to enable the experience that I think this is, a foundational ingredient for the metaverse becoming widely adopted. So if we accept that, then you go, okay, where are those networks? Where are they today? And fortunately, I guess this would be my message is, we've got a network that covers over 315 million people with 5G already. I mean, it's virtually everywhere. And that's with the low band spectrum. When you get into the heart of it, the mid-band spectrum that we have covers over 225 million people. So the networks are here. And so our invitation, this is again kind of building this community, is the network's here, let's build something together and metaverse experiences in the front of that.
Oh, thanks, Bryan. And even it was interesting listening to the previous speaker, Gerardo. He was talking about private 5G networks.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, I think these can definitely come together, AR glasses with 5G, mobile edge compute, and so forth. And Vishal, from the hardware side of the ecosystem, we talked about the Lenovo A3 being paired with a Moto Edge Plus. So are there types of industries that you think can benefit from such solutions?
Yeah, I think just building on what Bryan said, right? The Moto Edge Plus is going to be a true millimeter wave device. And also, we're very excited about what the mid-band opportunities are in rural, for example. If you look at enterprise cases in rural, if you have a remote worker, a digital worker, and they want data in front of their eyes, we're seeing those use cases really being enabled by 5G and what carriers like T-Mobile are doing in that space. I think there's going to be no industry that's going to be untouched from the benefits of 5G and XR, right? To me, 5G is the essential catalyst that's going to help the metaverse take place and drive this Web 3.0 revolution. From a Lenovo perspective, all our devices going forward, especially on the connected edge, are going to have some sort of a 5G connectivity or be connected to a 5G edge. So that's very exciting as well. On the consumer side, even though we're very enterprise focused right now, as the form factor gets better and more optimal, we totally see this being used in retail, in advertising, in consumer gaming, and then B2B to C opportunities like filling up stadiums with these glasses and experiences in a more mobile environment. And talking about slicing and low latency, those are the kind of things that you're now seeing in the stadium where you can have 50,000 fans with the exact same experience. It's a great equalizer in going forward.
Great. Absolutely. Iwamura-san, Terry, anything?
I would just say that what 5G enables is a consistent quality of experience. And that's really what we're striving to now, is to build this deeper and richer, technology-driven set of use cases, but building it with a nice level of consistency. That really matters the most.
Yeah. 5G is foundational, fundamental to enable all this metaverse XR experiences. And with Metaverse XR, I think we have to think of how to make our lives happier, right. By sharing intuitive contexts instead of streams of bits.
Right.
But in order to do that, this fundamental layer of 5G is essential.
No, very good. Thanks again for the panelists. I think the the call to action here is, let's corral the industry, mobile operators, hardware manufacturers, and in particular developers. How can we work together to incentivize developers to be creating experiences that leverage your networks, that leverage your hardware, and have something valuable, meaningful to enterprises and consumer. Thanks again, and ready and available to questions outside if you're interested. Thanks everyone.